So thank you to everybody for joining us here today for our webinar on Reading Reinvented, launching the OrCam 2. And we're privileged to have Leon Paull, who's all the way from Israel and has been running around the country doing road shows and helping us with the launch of this really exciting device. So for helping with all sorts of people with reading. So I'm Rebecca, and I'll just go through a few housekeeping tips just for anybody who might not have attended one of our webinars before. So we have muted your microphones, and that will be for most of the webinar because we are recording it, but we will have an option for questions. Preferably if people can type the questions, there's an option of a chat box. If you need to mute yourself, then you can press Alt and A or click on the microphone button on the bottom of your left-hand side of your screen. To get to the chat area with a shortcut key, that's Alt and H, and then you can just type as a message, be it a question or if you're having any technical difficulties at all. And as I said, we're recording the presentation, and once we've sorted that out, I will send that round to anybody that, that's attended, so you've got the link. So I will now hand over to Leon, who is going to tell you all about the exciting OrCam MyEye 2. So.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. I'm really happy to be able to present a OrCam MyEye 2. And as Rebecca said, we've been running around Australia as part of a roadshow this week to launch this new piece of technology, which really is groundbreaking, and its latest version, the MyEye 2, is even more advanced. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the company and where this technology is coming from, about how it's impacting the lives of people with sight loss or with reading disabilities. And I'll demonstrate how it actually works, so you'll be able to see over the camera of the screen, on your screen, just how we actually use this and how simple it is to use, and also a little bit about where the technology is going to and what we can look forward to in the future. So starting off from where OrCam began, back in 2010, two Israeli entrepreneurs by the name of Professor Amnon Shashua and Ziv Aviram, they established OrCam with the sole purpose of applying computer vision and artificial intelligence to people with disabilities, to people with human needs. They had previously established a much larger company called Mobileye, which applies computer vision, of which Professor Amnon Shashua is one of the world-leading experts, that applied computer vision to the automotive industry. So creating systems that avoid accidents in cars, and that technology is today very much at the heart of the development of driverless vehicles. So back in 2010, Professor Amnon Shashua said to Ziv, well, the technology is now mature enough to help people on a human level. The microprocessors are strong enough, the algorithms are sufficiently robust to be able to really start putting it to use, to human uses. And what better use to apply artificial vision to than to people who have vision loss? And so OrCam was established. And what okay, we've got the next slide. And what we've created at OrCam is a tiny wearable, smart camera that snaps onto any pair of glasses and can help you do a lot of things. And I want to talk about a little bit about just what we can do as we go through our day, what for a person with sight loss, OrCam can help them with. And so it starts with picking your clothes out in the morning. You want to make sure that your colors match up. So OrCam MyEye can help you choose the color of the clothing. You might be walking down the street on your way to work or on the way to the shops. You want to be able to read the street signs. So OrCam MyEye can help you read those street signs and identify where you're going. In the store, you want to be able to find the products that you need. So OrCam MyEye will help you identify the products. Either it's got products that it already has been taught to recognize by you, or it will read the barcodes of products that it can recognize and tell you what those products are. So you can find what you're looking for in the supermarket or in the home. You get to the cash register, you want to be sure that you're giving across the right money or getting back the right change. So OrCam MyEye will identify the banknotes that you're using. And a large part of our life also is around socializing. So we want to know who we're talking to. So OrCam MyEye will also be able to identify faces, and you can teach it to recognize people so that you know who you're speaking to. And I'll show you a little bit in a moment just how that works. But perhaps the most significant function that OrCam MyEye has is the ability to read text on any surface, any printed text, wherever you are. And when we established the company, we interviewed hundreds of people primarily with sight loss. And in order to understand what is the thing that we can do that would be most use to them, the most meaningful to them. And overwhelmingly, we heard that we want the ability to be able to read. So that is what OrCam MyEye has been very, very much focused on. So we can access the text around us that is on our smartphones, on our computers, in documents, books, newspapers, wherever we are. And that is the essence of OrCam MyEye, accessing the wealth of visual information textual information around us. There's a lot of people that this technology can assist. So some 350 million people estimated worldwide to be visually impaired. And so obviously we are very much focused on that population. But if we can help a person read, then we can also address additional populations. So for example, people with dyslexia or other reading or learning difficulties. Estimated that some 10 to 15% of the world's population suffer from dyslexia of some sort. 3 to 5%, that would be a severe condition that impedes their ability to read. So obviously, with technology like OrCam MyEye, we can also help people who aren't necessarily visually impaired, but have a reading difficulty. Similarly, there are many millions of people with other conditions, such as aphasia, which is a post-stroke condition, which also impacts the ability to read very often, or other acquired brain conditions, which we can help people, again, read with OrCam MyEye. But when we talk about a technology being used for human purposes, what we're really doing is we're giving people independence and empowering them to do the things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And if I just quote one person who told us her story, Amy Hines Fitzpatrick, she works for the National Council of the Blind in Ireland, and she was interviewed on TV a few weeks ago in Ireland, and asked to tell her about her experiences with OrCam MyEye. And she said something very, very important, which I'd just like to quote back to you. She said for her, it was an equalizer. It was leveling the playing field between her and her colleagues, enabling her to compete on equal terms. So she was able to access texts in the workplace just as her colleagues would do. And there are many, many other stories like that about people who are able to stay in work and as a result of technology like OrCam MyEye. So let me switch over to video here. Tim, just I'm going to start the video here and show you a little bit about how OrCam MyEye works. Rebecca, can you see us on the video?
I can't yet. Let me just check my view here. Oh, yes. Yep, I can now.
Okay.
Yep, that's great.
All right. So a OrCam MyEye, for those of you that can see the video, is a small wearable device. It's minute. It's about the size of a lady's lipstick, size of a man's index finger. It's actually about 7 centimeters long, very lightweight, weighs about 23 grams. It snaps onto the side of almost any frame of glasses. I'm going to take off my regular glasses and put on these glasses. And I've just put on a pair of glasses with OrCam on the side of it. And this camera, the smart camera, it has a camera which is facing forward. So wherever I look towards, the camera can see, and it's actually seeing for me. Okay, at the back of the unit, sitting near my ear, is a built-in HD speaker. So it's going to emit audio into my ear so that it tells me what I'm looking at. For the purposes of this demonstration, I've connected OrCam MyEye to a Bluetooth speaker so that you'll be able to hear the audio over the speaker. Now, just before I demonstrate, just to explain, this little device is not connected to the internet. It's entirely standalone. All of the calculations, all of the processing is being done in real time on the device itself. And so you don't need you're not reliant upon the internet. It'll work anywhere. And of course, that also means that it's fully private. But what is also very important is, this is very sophisticated technology. So it's very important. Sorry, that was just recognizing a person across the table from me. So this is very complex technology, and one of the challenges that we face in creating a product like MyEye is that we've got to make it simple to use. And the way that it is activated is simply by pointing. All you need to do is point towards the paper, the book, the newspaper, whatever is in front of you, and automatically OrCam MyEye will know what to do with it. So you just simply point at things, and we're constantly working on the human-machine interface, which is the way that we activate the device, and have actually laid the foundations for you to be able to speak to it. So in the future, you'll be able to tell it what to do. Just a few things that perhaps are worth mentioning. I'm just going to change the slide for a moment. And just talk about a few aspects of MyEye 2 which are different from the previous generation of MyEye, for those of you that were familiar with the technology already. So first of all, one of the great things that we've done in MyEye 2 is that we have removed all of the cables. In the previous version, there was a head unit which would be attached to with a cable to a base unit sitting on your belt or in your pocket. One of the pieces of feedback that we received from many users was that we'd rather not have all of these cables around us. So we miniaturized the device and packed it all into this tiny little head unit with no cables attached at all. And that is now the MyEye 2. We added on a user-friendly touch bar, so I can swipe forward, swipe back, tap it, just as you would on your smartphone or on a tablet, a very intuitive way to use it. Another thing that we built into MyEye 2 is, just as with any camera-based product, cameras need light to be able to operate. So we built, what we've often found is that people will be sitting in dark rooms or rooms with insufficient illumination for the camera to operate. So we've built in its own LED illumination. So if the room is not sufficiently light for the camera to be able to reliably pick up the object that it's trying to see, it'll automatically turn on its own illumination and it'll light up the object so that it can see it and read back to you accurately. We've got a high-quality, high-resolution camera, a 30-megapixel camera that is looking forward. And as we miniaturize a device like this, we also have to put in a smaller battery. So we've added to the MyEye 2 the option to power it up and recharge it as you go through the day from any power pack. So just a mini USB connector to any $20 power pack, and it'll charge up within a short period of time. Another important aspect of the MyEye 2 is that it will automatically update its software by itself. And the way it does that is very simply, you connect it to your Wi-Fi network at home or at work. As soon as it's connected, it'll look for any software updates and update itself. You won't need to do anything additional to that. That's a very important capability because there's a large team of people working on the development of this technology back at the OrCam headquarters, about 120 software and algorithm developers, hardware engineers who are working on the development of OrCam MyEye. So there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of enhancements and fixes that the team come up with quite regularly. So it's important that you get the latest software, and that now happens seamlessly without you making any effort. We have also the option in the device to connect via Bluetooth to headphones, earphones, hearing aids, and of course also to your smartphone. That capability will be activated via a software update a little bit later this year, but the platform is in place. The components are all in the device, waiting for that functionality to be activated. So let me show you a little bit how it works. I'm wearing a OrCam MyEye. I've got a newspaper in front of me.
Yeah, sorry, Leon, if I can just interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
If people need to enlarge the video on their screen, there should be some little icons near the picture. There's one to get to the active speaker video, the large square. So sorry, I'll let you carry on.
Okay.
And that will bring it up if it's just coming up as a thumbnail. So. Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm holding up a newspaper in front of me. I'm wearing the OrCam MyEye device on my glasses. It's sitting on the side of my head. It's a very small unit. I'm going to get a little bit close to the camera so that you can see. I'm also wearing headphones. That has nothing to do with the OrCam MyEye. That's just for the purposes of this webinar. I see the newspaper is in front of me. All I need to do is to point towards the newspaper.
Civic leader got a trick last century when they decided to get rid of the city's trams. It's no too late to abandon their misconceived reintroduction. Okay, and it read to me that this article is something about about civic leaders and the city's trams. Okay. Sounds like an interesting article. I can go on, point further down the article, and it'll read that article to me. So again, all that I did was I just pointed towards the text. The camera, if you heard, I don't know if you could hear, there was a slight shutter sound just as it captured the image. And then a couple of beeps as it was processing, and within a second or so, it immediately started reading back the text to me. Okay, let me just show you that again. You only need a percentage to drop in for a coffee to make those pre-dawn openings worthwhile. On Anzac Day, she'd sell 6,000 sandwiches, but since George...
Okay, so I pointed to a slightly different place on the page and it read that text to me. And if you noticed, I wanted to stop the reading. All I did was extend my open palm hand. Sorry, seen there again.
Not all the page.
I extended my hand in front of the camera and it understood that I wanted to stop the reading. So it's reacting to those gestures as it sees them. Okay, so we can navigate the text of a newspaper. We can read a road sign. As long as the text is large enough, the camera can pick it up and we can read it. Okay, people who have a sufficient vision to be able to see blocks of text or know more or less where the text is located, they would use the pointing gesture and can even navigate that way through the text. Someone who doesn't know where the text is because they're totally blind or don't have sufficient vision, they would be able to orient themselves towards the text and simply press on the button on the touch bar on the side of the device, just as I'm going to do right now. I'm holding up an OrCam brochure and just looking towards it and touching the side of the bar.
OrCam MyEye 2.0 Pi, an artificial vision device. Art smart camera that instantly reads text aloud, recognizes.
Okay, so it's reading back the entire page to me, and I can stop it and move to the other page if I want to. So the other function that we have in the device is the ability to recognize faces. So Tim, can I ask you to just help me out here? Okay, if you notice, Tim is actually, I'm just going to pan around with the camera. Tim is actually sitting next to me. Okay, it's Tim Connell from the CEO of Quantum, who distribute OrCam here in Australia. And if I look towards Tim, and just push on the touch bar,
Tim.
it tells.
Some blocks of text are.
Okay, let me stop that. So it told me that it's Tim. Now that's because I've already pre-taught it to recognize Tim. Actually, when I just turned towards Tim initially, if you noticed, it said in an unprompted manner that Tim is in front of me. It told me that it's Tim because I've already taught it to recognize Tim. If it would not recognize the person that is in front of me, it would say a man is in front of you, a woman is in front of you. So I can, so it knows that it's a person, it knows to decipher the gender of the person, and via a very, very simple process of learning, of teaching it just by holding down the button for a few seconds and it capturing the image of that person, capturing the features of that person. You just say the name of the person, it's then learned that person and will say that name each time it sees them. Okay, so we can recognize friends, family, colleagues, and we can store up to about 150 faces in the device. In a similar way, it can also identify products. We can teach it to recognize products that we commonly look for at home or in the store. That could be a box of medicine. It could be a carton, a certain type of milk that you're looking for on the shelf in the store, or a can of food. And we can teach it to recognize those products. Or, as I mentioned before, we can recognize products via the barcodes of the product. We have about a database of barcodes loaded onto the device, about 1 million barcodes currently, which might sound like a lot, but it's actually not that very many. If it knows the barcode that it sees, then it will of course read out the associated data from the database. And we are all the time via those software updates also increasing the size of the database and adding on more and more products the whole time. A few other things that we can do with OrCam MyEye that I mentioned before. I can show you, for example, I have here an Australian a banknote of some denomination. Let's just hold that up and see what that is.
50 Australian dollars.
Okay, 50 Australian dollars, so I know what banknote I have. I didn't need to point or prompt it in any way. It has an automatic recognition function and a very rich menu of settings in the device so that you can configure it in the way that that is most comfortable for you to use. It can also tell me the time. So I'm not wearing a watch, but if I just...
The time is 10:54. Today is Thursday, the 12th of April 2018.
So if I just lift my arm, it sees the gesture and is able to tell me the time because it understands what that gesture means. I'm running on the screen at the moment. I'm not sure whether you can see it. A very simple visualization of what the camera sees when it actually looks at a newspaper. It's deciphering the newspaper, breaking it up into texts, into headlines, into blocks of text, paragraphs, columns, so that you can choose just what you want to read. Now, so where is this all going to? There's a lot of, I spoke about the development team that are all the time working on new functionalities and enhancing the capabilities of the device. So what's in store for the future? Well, in the very near future, we're going to be releasing the Bluetooth connectivity function. So that'll, together with that, there'll also be an app for your smartphone. So you'll be able to manipulate the settings of the device over your smartphone, and we'll be able to add in all sorts of additional functions. We'll also be adding on the ability to read in multiple languages on a single device. There are already some 13 languages developed for OrCam. And we're adding on more all the time, it's available already across 25 countries. So, so a lot of languages that can be activated on the device. With the ability to read multiple languages, we'll also have the ability to automatically detect which language it's looking at, so that it would switch automatically between those languages. I mentioned before the voice activation, and this is going to be a very significant step forward in the ease of use, in the way that we use the machine. So it will be able to tell it in the not too distant future, OrCam, read me the headlines of the newspaper, and OrCam will understand that and do exactly as it is asked. Another area of development, which is very exciting, is the whole aspect of mobility assistance. So we are teaching OrCam MyEye to be able to recognize, where's the doorway? Where are the stairs? Up, stairs down, how many stairs, windows, corridors, and so forth. So we can assist a person to get around, whether it be indoors or outdoors. And there's a lot of work, a lot of the team are working on that kind of capability, which will be available in the future. So a lot of good things to look forward to. So just to wrap up, if we started out by saying that the technology can help help people on a human level, we already have many thousands of users of OrCam MyEye. But there are many more, more than 1 billion people that we can potentially help with this technology. And we look forward to continuing to develop this. We're very committed to continue to develop this technology to be able to assist as many of those people as we can. And with that, Rebecca, are we able to take any questions?
Yes, certainly. So if people want to type the questions in a chat box, that might make it easier for us to monitor. That's if you need to use the keystrokes, that's Alt and H, and then you can start typing. I've changed it so it will just come to us host rather than going to everybody. We have had a question about in a modern context, in terms of it recognizing the gender of people automatically, would it be possible to switch that off, because it's not always a definite thing, or does it get it wrong? That sort of thing. So,
yeah, it's a good question. It is fairly reliable, but nothing is foolproof when it comes to recognition, and gender recognition is quite well developed. In the current version, there isn't the ability to switch that off. But that is the kind of feedback that we gather, and we can apply it if there's sufficient demand.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And we've got another question. With the barcode scanning, is the 1 million that are on the OrCam to do with Australian barcodes?
It's a mix of international products. About 1/4 of those are specifically Australian, actually. We have about 250,000 Australian products in there, and all the time adding on more.
Okay, thanks. And we've had the, yes, people have asked the cost. it's for the MyEye 2, it's just under 7,000 or 7,200 with training, which we can include and we'd recommend, because it is something that you, while it's pretty intuitive, it's something that, you know, we can train you with, and here at Quantum we do that, do individual training with people, so you can get used to all the features and, you know, getting into the menus and helping you set up the Wi-Fi connection and things like that. Somebody else is, okay, what if another question, what if the person does not have hand movement to be able to do the stop gesture in front of the camera?
Yeah, good question. The device can be activated in a few ways. If you're not able to use your hands in order to point or to stop, then there is one function which could be of use to you, which is what we call auto page function, or auto page identification. So basically you set that setting in the menu, and once you hold up a page or a book or anything, any piece of paper in front of the camera for a few seconds, it will understand when it sees three sides of the page that that you're asking it to read, and therefore it will start to read. You can also activate, instead of by pointing, by tapping on the sidebar of the device. So that is another way of also activating the reading. What I would suggest is that you get in touch with Quantum or with Vision Australia, who also can help you try out the device and see whether it suits your needs.
Yeah, thank you, Leon. And it's probably more a bit of a question for us. People got asked how this unit's sold. Is it direct to the public or through practitioners, and is training organised for each patient? And yes, we can certainly organise training. We do sell it direct to the public. We have got some organisations that we work with that are selling it, like Vision Australia, and in Adelaide, the Royal Society for the Blind, and we have had, yeah, I'm not sure about in Perth if Visibility is still doing it, but yeah, we have had some other research, but mostly directly ourselves. And another one, with the future plans to include mobility in OrCam, will this include GPS navigation like Siri on the iPhone to give directions?
There's a long way to go until we're able to provide full navigation capabilities. In terms of the long-term vision of OrCam, yes, we would like to, that is where we want to get to, and that is where this technology will eventually get to. If Mobileye, and on the basis of similar technologies, is able to make a car drive itself, then certainly eventually we can take this technology, which is already assisting people on a human level, as I spoke about earlier, to be able to give them the ability in the future to navigate their surroundings fully. It's going to take quite a while to get there, but that is the end game of this type of technology.
Oh, that's great. And another person asked, how does it recognize where text continues from one column to next in a newspaper?
Yeah, good question. It analyzes the full scene of the text. It can recognize the columns, so it will, when it sees that there is a column or two columns, for example, to an article, it'll go down the first column on the left-hand side, first of all, and either, if it's not sure that it should continue to the next column, then it'll just give you a little ding at the end of the column so that you know that it's reached the end of the part that it's reading. And if you think there's more that it can read, then you'll point again, and it'll continue on from the same place and just continue forth. If it's very clear to it that there is a second column, it will just continue to the second column until the end of the article.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Is there any final questions from anybody? I think I've covered all the ones that we've got there. I'll just briefly share my final slide. Oh, okay. Somebody's what is the benefit of connecting the OrCam via Bluetooth to the smartphone?
Yeah, the connection to the smartphone, once it's activated, will enable you to manipulate settings via an app
At the moment, the access to the settings menu is on the device itself. You would press on the on-off button and swipe the touch bar at the same time in order to enter the settings menu. And it's an audio menu, so it would tell you to tap or swipe according to the functions that you want to activate or deactivate. Once we release the app and the connectivity to your smartphone, so the access to the menu and various other setting the device in the way that you want becomes a little bit easier over that app. It also gives us the ability to add in all sorts of additional functions and augmented capabilities that would run from the internet via your smartphone into the device. Now, that doesn't mean that the core functionality of the device will be reliant upon the internet. We will continue to maintain the ability to read, recognize people, and all of those functions as a standalone capability that is not reliant upon the internet. That'll all be processed on the device itself, so you have an immediate and reliable continuous feedback.
Thank you. And another question. Have you used this with people with autism who have difficulty recognizing faces? I know we've had some people with other learning difficulties. Personally, I've not seen anyone with autism yet, but my colleagues may have, and I don't know if you have. Leon, are you aware of?
I'm not aware specifically of cases of autism using OrCam MyEye, but depending on the abilities of the individual, it's certainly applicable. So if the challenge is recognizing faces, and the person has the ability to learn how to use the device, whether it be by tapping or by pointing, then absolutely they would be able to use OrCam MyEye to recognize people.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes. So, okay, somebody said, oh, this might be, yeah, good one for you, Leon. Won't smartphones have similar apps soon, which would give most of the same benefits at a fraction of the cost, perhaps?
Yeah, yeah, there are apps out there that do some of the functions that I've just been describing, but there's a fundamental difference between a smartphone app and an assistive device that has been designed for people, for example, with sight loss. You know, using a smartphone, if you have a smartphone and you're able to use it with voiceover and so forth, you might be able to use some of the functions via the camera to be able to perhaps access some text and either read it back or magnify it. However, it's not quite as usable as one might imagine, and this is what we're seeing all too frequently. With a smartphone, you're going to have to aim the camera at the object, so you've got to get that all lined up. That's not easy to do for a visually impaired person, as opposed to just facing towards it and having your physical orientation towards it and having the device do all of that analysis and say, okay, well, where is the object, and just extracting that out of the image that it can see. So that is really what makes it the difference between having something which, yeah, might occasionally be able to help you out in a specific scenario, but between that and having a device which you can rely upon as a usable daily aid for any situation in which you need to read any text. Whether it be on a page, on a screen, on a smartphone, on the street sign, or wherever you are, without having to be required to aim a camera at it very, very specifically. That is the key difference. I would say it boils down to the usability of the device.
Mm-hmm. And just to add to that, we have had feedback from customers that we've done to it, and where that comparison has been made as well. And a lot of people, yeah, they don't want to be using their phone all the time for things, and if it's draining the battery. There's also, for some apps, you might be having to have a Wi-Fi connection or something, and it's the fact that it's hands-free. So we have actually got a document pointing, saying what the differences are and how it's different to using something on a phone all the time. Another question, will it have the option to voice tag to a barcode to give personalized tags like the device, the ID Mate, or QR codes on a smartphones?
Yeah, we've been asked that a couple of times already. So it's something that which we will look into. At the moment, it's not a function which is available on the MyEye, but as an alternative to the product learning, that could be something that we add in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. If people haven't got any more questions, thank you so much, Leon, for helping us do this webinar today and presenting all that, so that people in areas where we haven't had the roadshows can find out about the OrCam and have had the opportunity to talk to you directly. So thanks to everybody who's attended as well. If you are interested in an individual demonstration of the OrCam, you can contact Quantum on 1300 883 853 or by email at our info@quantumrlv.com.au or any of our individual staff. Just to add as well, we have had some success already with various funding options, like it is an approved item through Veterans Affairs. We've had some success with NDIS now, and also job access. With NDIS, that's still, there's also got to be a lot of justification for it, but it is possible. So if it's suiting your needs. And so yes, I'll end things there. And yes, if you think of questions later, by all means, send us an email, and we can get back to you on that. So once again, thank you, and talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.